What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Planet podcast. It's Brandon, joined once again by Alex today. In today's episode, we'll be going over all the major storylines from week one, as well as looking forward to week two. So, Alex, let's just get right into it. One of the major storylines coming out of week one was Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford joining the 60K passing yards list. He is now the 10th member of this list all time. As you can see on the screen right there, he's joining some pretty elite company. So, what do you have to say about this one?
No, I'm definitely excited for him. He did it in 15 years. It's basically averaging 4,000 yards a season. He was in the wasteland that's known as Detroit, so he ended up going to the Los Angeles Rams, getting that elusive first Super Bowl ring. So I think he is very much on the way to becoming a Hall of Famer.
And then moving on, one of the other major storylines was Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, they struggled against Danny Dimes and the Colts this past weekend. What do you think? Is it time to panic in Miami, or should we push the brakes a little bit?
Obviously, I had the Dolphins going in last place in this division, and I still stand by that, but I don't think I'm worried just yet. I think if we see it in back-to-back weeks, that's when you hit the panic button. Reports out of Miami is that if early on in the season, if they don't figure it out, both the GM and Mike McDaniels are out. So definitely keep an eye on the Dolphins because the seat is hot.
It's steaming because I don't know if you saw it, or I saw on Twitter earlier that the fans are starting a GoFundMe to have a blip go passing the stadium for their home opener this weekend. It's already gotten a couple donations, but they're trying to get a blip or a banner that shows like fire the GM, fire the coach, and I'm like, yeah, they better win. If not, it's going to be pretty bad down there in Miami this weekend.
Oh yeah, and the trade whirlwinds have been going crazy because the Steelers and the Chiefs are rumored to be inquiring or likely to inquire about Tyreek Hill, who also threw a little tantrum on the sideline. So Miami is not a good place right now.
Yeah, well, that's a discussion for another day. Moving on, we got your quarterback now, right? Aaron Rodgers. He got his revenge against the New York Jets this past weekend. He threw for 244 yards and 4 touchdowns, but that's not it. He had this to say after the game.
Beating him, is there significance in that since he basically told you to your face that he didn't think you were right for that team?
Yes, that's what he did.
So there's significance in beating him for you?
I was happy to beat everybody associated with the Jets.
Rodgers wasn't the only one that was excited to beat everyone with the Jets. Alex, what do you have to say about this past week's game? Whether Rodgers post game throwing shade at Aaron Glenn, or as in general as a Steeler fan?
After having to stomach Kenny Pickett and Russell Wilson as quarterback, watching Aaron Rodgers get us back there, 4 touchdowns, I love it. I just need the defense to step it back up, but I absolutely love what Rodgers did. Even under pressure, he moved around. The Achilles looks like it's getting back there, so cheers to our new quarterback.
And moving on, speaking of quarterbacks, it was a great matchup on Sunday Night Football. We had Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, the past two NFL MVPs squaring off on Sunday night. And as obviously anybody that watched the game, Baltimore was up by 15 points with about 4 minutes to go in the game. And Buffalo was able to somehow come back. Fans left early. You never do that regardless of if you're winning or losing, because of moments like this. So that was a great game. What was your reaction to that one?
Yeah, no, that game was insane. A Derrick Henry fumble, you watched just the way the Ravens just took their foot off the gas. And by the time that they realized that the Bills were coming back, it was too late. Credits to Josh Allen, but Harbaugh is absolutely on the hot seat with the fans, at least online, after another
blown lead, double-digit blown lead.
Yeah, another meltdown.
And then we saw in this game, obviously a Buffalo fan hit DeAndre Hopkins, got pushed by Lamar Jackson. So, and then now he's banned from all NFL stadiums. So only reason I bring that up is because we're bringing up from one violence to another. Our main story being Jalen Carter, of course. Game 1, opening week. You've waited all season for this. It's ring night, banner night, sorry. And before you can even take a snap, you're over here seeing him getting thrown out of the game for spitting at quarterback Dak Prescott. And it's like, as soon as this happened, you text me like, what is he doing? You know, it's all like, in my head, I'm like, dude, it's the first game of the year. This is the defending champion, and this is how you start off your season. Like, I have no idea what was going through his mind. What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, there's been a lot of videos showing that Dak spit in his direction, but at the end of the day, you got to think about your football team. There's a way to get a lick back without, spitting on someone. Just, Jalen Carter's typically in the backfield anyway, so you can get your lick back in the game. I absolutely saw the difference of that Eagles defense without him in the middle. Javonte Williams looked like he could still run the ball, even though I kind of already think that. But jokes aside, his presence was absolutely missed, and you can't afford that, especially on a team of this caliber. You need all your players to fit their roles.
And the NFL announced earlier today, Dave, that we're recording the podcast, that Jalen Carter has served his 1-game suspension for spitting on Dak Prescott. Due to him getting ejected super early, that he never even took a snap. He also was fined $57,000. So I'm sure a lot of Kansas City fans were probably like, oh yeah, we should have a good game this week. No Jalen Carter. You guys saw what Dak Prescott did the Eagles defense. So Mahomes should easily be able to do that, right? So I'm sure when all these fans saw their phone and saw the news, they're like, what? There's no way. Like the NFL is just trying to get at us. Like me personally, like once I only saw the $57K fine initially, so I was like, there's no way. And then later on, the report came out that he served his 1-game suspension during the season opener, technically. So in my head, I was already ready that Eagles were going to go into this one without Jalen Carter. I thought it was going to be probably 3-game suspension around there, so with a heftier fine, because you're spitting at someone, or on someone, I should say. So I personally was, not only as a fan, but as a human being as well. Like if somebody were to spit on you, you wouldn't take so kindly to that. Obviously, later on in the game, we saw Dak Prescott started it by spitting at the floor in his direction. I would be mad as well, but like how you said earlier, you got to think about not only yourself but the team, because it's a season opener. They need you to get off to a great start, and we kind of saw that his presence was severely missed. So, what do you have to say about him only getting 1-game suspension?
Yeah, no, I definitely think the league. I would have thought it would have been multiple games, especially considering he could have served 1 game already. But I definitely think that now that he's on the radar of the NFL, he does something else like this, you're looking at a 3-game suspension minimum. But yeah, no, I think Chiefs fans are sick to their stomach. They already had trouble running the ball, and now you have Jalen Carter ensuring that he'll be there. So I think Eagles fans can breathe a sigh of relief, and that defense can go back to what it was doing, because it's in the Super Bowl you had who was it? It was not when the 49ers the linebacker that ran out there. I think it's Dre Greenlaw.
When he ruptured his Achilles.
Yeah, when you have a unit like that and you miss one person, it's easy to exploit. Same way that the Cowboys made sure to run in between the tackles because they were missing their stopper in there. So
their best defender.
Jalen Carter better be thanking the league for taking it easy on him, because it could have been a lot worse. But kudos to the league on what they ultimately decided on, and I'm excited to see this defense in full strength.
They ultimately decided that the league couldn't suffer him being at another game, because obviously they have Super Bowl rematch coming up this week. You got to have all the stars, So looking ahead to this week now, here are some of our top games of the week. Obviously, starting off Thursday Night Football, we got the Washington Commanders going up against the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. Personally, I'm for this matchup itself, I was thinking will the Packers defense be able to shut down Jaden Daniels again? We are like how we just saw them do to the Detroit Lions this past week, or was that more of the Lions losing their coordinators and they're all trying to get on the same page? What do you think about this one?
Oh, I absolutely think it was the Packers defense. On top of the Lions, obviously, I don't know if you saw that stat line. Jared Goff is 0-19-1 when his coordinator isn't Sean McVay or Ben Johnson. So that absolutely played a role in there. But I was very impressed with the Packers, their pass rush. Micah didn't play all the snaps that he would have played. Like there was other players in there, like Cooper, who ended up, having a hell of a game. So my biggest concerns and why I picked the Lions initially was I didn't think the Packers had enough on defense to be dominant, and I absolutely was proved wrong in week one. And I think as Micah Parsons gets his snaps up, I think this defense gets very formidable. And I thought Kenny Clark was going to be a bigger missing piece in the middle, but ultimately they had guys ready to go that absolutely performed their asses off. And kudos to that Packers GM, because losing a guy like Kenny Clark, to a regular fan, you hear Kenny Clark, you don't think anything like, he doesn't have sacks, but no, what he does in the middle is valuable beyond, and they absolutely just made the Lions look silly.
More valuable than the box score will show you. So then you brought up Ben Johnson. That's our number 2 game of the week. The Chicago Bears going back to Detroit, visiting the Lions, and we obviously saw this past week on Monday night where the Bears got off to a nice hot start. Caleb scores on the first drive with a rushing touchdown, and the whole city is going crazy. Like, okay, this is finally the year. Like, Ben Johnson's going to really ramp up this offense. We're going to turn it around, and it's a whole 180 when you get to the second half, because Caleb was looking good, and then after that, you see J.J. McCarthy come out and freaking bring them all back. Like, so what do you have to say about this one?
Yeah, no, that first and half was night and day. Caleb Williams, went on a hot run, completed like 12 passes in a row, or whatever the number ended up being. But what I did notice,
something like that.
What I did notice in that first half was he was throwing behind his receivers a bit and impeding the yards after the catch. There was a few plays where if he would have just thrown it, leading his receiver or guiding his receiver, he probably would have got a couple more yards. And, that I think ultimately came back to bite him, because as you watch the game progress, there was just kind of plays where you look at Caleb and you're kind of like scratching your head at like, was this the guy I saw in the first half? But I think Ben Johnson, with, what he showed in Detroit, I'm confident the Bears will figure it out sooner than later. And what better way to do it than your old boss, And
then moving on to our next matchup right here, we've already kind of previewed it earlier. Eagles at Chiefs. Will the Chiefs get regular season revenge, or will the Eagles prove that no, it wasn't a fluke, and we're still the better team? What are you most looking forward to in the Super Bowl rematch?
Oh, I'll tell you what, Jalen Carter. I was going to lean Chiefs without Jalen Carter, because I just thought without that presence in the middle, like it's going to be like these guys know each other. They played each other multiple times with these types of, the same personnel. But I think Jalen Carter makes all the difference. Him being back on the field, he's just going to wreak havoc. Jawan Taylor's like, I think he had like 4 false starts or something, or holdings, and he was just and he's the second highest player on paid player on that team. So that's like, you know what I mean? But I think Jalen Carter makes all the difference, and that's going to help the Eagles just wreck the Chiefs. I think we're going to see bloodbath on Sunday.
Yeah, it's not a Chiefs game without a couple of false starts by Jawan Taylor, right?
One more thing. I'm going to say this right now. Patrick Mahomes, I don't want to see any flags being thrown when you run to the sideline, because that little shoulder check you did, and then acting all tough after, like, okay, if you always run to the sideline, but you take that little shot, like, people are going to take their licks, and you're going to have to deal with it, because when you do something like that, like someone sees that on film, I guarantee you they're going to figure out a way to hit them within the rules. And then also, real quick, not to glaze the Eagles, Bond made a game-saving tackle. He made so many plays that were just necessary to hold on to that win. And I think with this defense, like, typically after, a Super Bowl, there's the Super Bowl hangover. I'm still seeing the same guys that were competing at a high level and making differences, still doing that on this team. I'm telling you, he's a game changer in there. He left the Saints and became a star with the Eagles. Kudos to the coaching staff. They got it out of him, but like, kudos to him. The game he had, I don't see enough people talking about it. As a former person who played defense, he was just sideline to sideline. It was beautiful.
he mentioned before that he left the Saints because he was never going to be more than a special teams player there. So he decided to take a 1-year prove it deal last year with the Eagles. Obviously, he paid huge dividends. Now you see him coming back on a bigger contract. He's a captain this year, rightfully so. And then how you mentioned that tackles, it was crazy because obviously Miles Sanders had a long rush on that one. He tries punching the ball out, misses, and at that point I'm thinking, dude, you just gave up the touchdown. And then, but he still made up for that and then tackles him. And a couple plays later, you see the Eagles get that fumble recover on the same drive that would have scored that touchdown. And then you just see like after that play, also Dak Prescott did save a touchdown on that return. So I'll give him kudos for that as well. When he tackled Q, I thought it was going to be a scoop and score, but Dak came out of nowhere and saved a touchdown there too. But that was huge because, like, sure, at that point in the game, you could have just been like, just let them score, like we'll get them on the next one. But if had they done that, Eagles more than likely lose that game because the weather delay happened right after the fumble. And then as you were watching the game, neither offense came back out 100%. It was only 3 points the whole second half, but that was before the weather delay. So nothing after the weather delay. So Saquon, thank you so much. Appreciate that. So, and then final game that we're looking at right here, Falcons at Vikings. It's a rematch of the 2024 College National Championship game between both starting quarterbacks, Michael Penix Jr. and JJ McCarthy. So, Alex, last week, obviously, I mentioned that I wasn't so high on JJ. Maybe he might be the bust this year. After week one, I'm looking stupid. I'll just say it. All right. He started off slowly. That's what you would expect. He's been off for over a year and a half or so after not playing since that national championship game, considering he missed all of his rookie season. So the fact that it took him a couple quarters just to get rolling, it's not surprising at all. But the fact that he got rolling so quickly, I would feel in his first game, that's what surprised me the most. But what do you have to say about this matchup or their JJ McCarthy on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, I think both quarterbacks impressed me last week. Michael Penix, 298 yards, very mobile, deep passes look great. He even got Kyle Pitts involved, which, for anybody who's in fantasy knows the headache that Kyle Pitts is. But, I love what he did. I'm curious to see how Drake London's availability is going to be. I know he left the game early, but with the Vikings, JJ McCarthy, it's the reverse of Caleb Williams. That first half, I was like, oh my God, Brandon was right. Like JJ might just not have it. Maybe it's the rust, but kudos to him for bouncing back in the second half. Not easy, especially in your first professional game, to come back down by 10 points. And, he was out there just, making plays with his legs, making plays with his arm. I was very impressed. And I think for the Vikings, like you were saying, there was a standard expected after Sam Darnold. I think this game is good to kind of build off of and continue that hopeful success.
All right, moving on to our new segment, Third and Long. Alex and I will each give our bold take of the week. So it's only fitting that being in the first segment of the year, I will let my bias show a bit. So I have the Eagles walking into Arrowhead, and they're going to expose the Chiefs once again in the Super Bowl rematch and show everybody not only are we the better team, but is this truly the end of the Chiefs dynasty? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, but Eagles win by 2 touchdowns this week. What about you, Alex?
I also have a team beating another team by 2 touchdowns. I have the Dolphins beating the Patriots at home by 2 touchdowns. They're at home. All the pressure's on. I expect to see a vintage Tua and Hill connection. I just think that these two are too good. The Patriots secondary did kind of get aired out, and I think this is a perfect opportunity to kind of quiet the noise a little bit. And I think between Tua, Hill, Waddle, and Achane, I think they're going to absolutely just demolish the Patriots and just at least cool the flames down on Mike McDaniel's seat.
All right, that's it. That's our bold takes. Final 2 minutes coming up right here. Got a couple questions for you, Alex, before we take off. First off, what's your game of the week and why?
For me, it's the Bills and the Jets. Watching Josh Allen and Justin Fields continue off, heck of a week one. I know Justin Fields fell short to the superior team, but I think what he did, some of the throws he made, the tight windows, I think the development with Justin Fields is exactly where I wish I would have seen on the Steelers last year. But But I think those two are going to give us a heck of a division match. I think there's going to be a lot of points. I think both teams are going to make the other defenses have to figure things out on the fly. But I think Josh Allen and Justin Fields are going to give us a show.
And then last but not least, of course, we got to get a fantasy question in there. Who's your fantasy sleeper of the week, whether it be a waiver wire edition or just because they have a great matchup and somebody might already have them on their bench?
For me, it's Arizona Cardinals' Trey Benson. He's a second string running back behind James Conner. He had 8 carries for 68 yards, showed a lot of explosive go when he had the ball. He's facing the Panthers, who didn't look like they had anything figured out, kind of like what we talked about last episode. I think the game script is there. I think he's going to get about 10 to 12 carries and a touchdown. And in fantasy, all you need is 50 plus yards and a touchdown from a backup running back, and you are ecstatic. So I love him. If you can still trade for him, get him before it's too late. I think he'll eventually end up sharing a lot more carries with Connor, therefore making him a lot more valuable. So buy low.
Buy low right now before you have to overpay later, guys. You heard it here first. All right. Well, thank you, Alex, for joining us once again for another episode. That's it for this one. Make sure to go like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media at Sports Planet Pod. And weekly episodes will be dropping every Wednesday morning. So that's it for today's episode. And we'll see you next week for another episode of the Sports Planet Podcast. Peace.